kind of nice weather to capture some tree colors today. With that in mind, what's going on today? Well, that topic of trees, it was kind of interesting reading this, where apparently there's a company in Ontario that's going to plant a lot of trees, I guess, with a drone, and they've gotten a lot of funding, it seems like. This one here says, this Ontario startup is testing drones for tree planting in Alberta. Emissions Reductions Alberta gave Flash Forests $1.8 million to plant 4 million trees. I've seen something like this in other countries before, where there's a bunch of drones basically shooting out seeds everywhere. And it says here, carrying around 1,600 tree seed pods each, the drones shoot out 5 pods per second, covering the designated area in a matter of minutes. The location where the seed pods are targeted isn't random, but rather mapped out by the drones using surveying software to detect areas to avoid, such as rivers, rocks, logs, and piles of slash. The drones belong to Flash Forests, an automated reforestation startup based out of Ontario, which is using its technology to replant forests lost to wildfires in Alberta. The company, started in 2019, is working on its drone and seed pod technology after receiving $1.8 million in funding from Emissions Reduction Alberta in 2021. So they do show some videos, basically showing off their tech, how it's done. And as well as I mentioned, this company got a lot of grants before, like this older one here says what? Drones are making their mark in Canada's forest sector. Today we announced over $1.3 million to Flash Forests to plant seed pods using drones across 7 sites affected by wildfires. So they're getting a lot of funding. I guess they're going to be a leader of sorts, correct? If they aren't already anyways, in terms of trying to reforest areas with these drones shooting out a bunch of seeds and all that. So that's great, I think. Companies using the tech to make things more efficient. It makes me think, unfortunately, I remember there was a person who wanted to do something like this, but they needed practice to test out the drone and flying, but because of over-the-top regulations, they're like, where can I fly this thing? Like, it's that huge, like that type of drone. From what I gather, all the person wanted to do was fly it in their own backyard, no higher than their house, just to test it out, but because they were in a controlled airspace and all that, they wouldn't be able to do that. So it just reminds me again, in terms of things, for example, people being stopped from trying to innovate just because a lot of those regulations that they make absolutely no sense. It's just way too broad in terms of treating everything like a huge manned aircraft in every single situation. And I was reading all this recently, which was really fascinating, where, as you know, recently Twitter was taken over by Elon Musk, and it seems like one of his ideas recently was to introduce a subscription model, I guess, called Twitter Blue, where everyone can get, in a sense, verified, so you look like an official per se. You basically pay about $8 a month or so. Now the problem is a lot of trolls, it seems like, they're creating accounts that look and sound like the official accounts of the company or the brand, and they're making these ridiculous posts, and because they have, I guess, this verified look to it, people think, oh, it's the actual company. Now, at first you would think, okay, whatever, just a bunch of people being clowns and all that. But apparently in some of these posts, they're claiming companies' stocks and stuff have been dropping because of these posts. Like what? This guy posts here, Twitter Blue raised a few billion in market cap for Lockheed Martin. So apparently this was the post at first. It says here, we will begin halting all weapons sales to Saudi Arabia, Israel, and United States until further investigation into their record of human rights abuse. Now you can see kind of the name is different in terms of the lettering and all that, but because of this, apparently some people took it seriously and their stock, for example, dropped like crazy. So if you were to believe that, you would say, this is really bad. And then another person here writes here, did Twitter Blue tweet just cost Eli Lilly billions? For example, here again, this account posts, we are excited to announce insulin is free now. And just like that, the stock drops like crazy. And then there are some other ones, for example, like this one shows McDonald's. It says, we're proud to announce that all McDonald's locations will now be serving Beyond Meat. Our meat is far beyond its expiration date. But you can see again, they have the check mark because they subscribe to the service, but the username itself is different. Like it says here, McDonald's, and most people wouldn't pay attention to that, I guess. And to make it worse, apparently, if you subscribe to this service, it'll actually boost or give your messages a priority to non-subscribers, so that makes it worse in terms of getting it out there more. So what an interesting situation this is. And apparently because of all this, they're suspending, I guess, the service And at the same time, they're saying most people, they get suspended afterwards for stuff like this. But I guess ultimately if the person's just trolling them, then it's only $8 to wreak this havoc. Kind of crazy. At the same time though, it makes me think, because a lot of people have said before where when he took over the platform, he will be a target. People want to shut him down now. If you were to believe, I guess, the side where he's trying to encourage things like more free speech and all that. So with that thought, would you be more in the mindset of he's doing a quote bad job, or would you say it's just one of the issues, I guess, in taking over the company, trying to fix everything in terms of revenue, and people just trying to attack him because, I don't know, they feel threatened over his ownership? Kind of an interesting, I guess, perspective overall. You'll have to wait and see what happens. According to Elon Musk himself though, he's saying that site is getting way more traffic than it did initially. All right, see you guys later.